Hello everyone and welcome to the Reddit Railway. My name is Victor and I'll be your driver. Today's destination is r/ProRevenge, so all aboard! So I was madly in love with my ex-girlfriend. We were together for 4 years. She is quite attractive and very affectionate. She thrived on attention, which I indulged to the best of my abilities. I fondly called her Winter, and she had a cheesy name for me as well, which I choose not to divulge. Overall, I was happy. I earned significantly more than her, and my grandparents left me a hefty amount of money. Although she lived in her own apartment, most of the stuff in it was mine. Edit, we live in a very conservative country where live-in relationships are extremely taboo. She drove my car, used my laptop, and so on. I have a crappy 32-inch LCD TV, while she bought a 60-inch Bravia and defaulted on payments which I had to cover. This was not an isolated incident. She had a lot of things I was paying for. I admit I was a doormat, in blissful ignorance of all the red flags. So, one day I was at her place and I used her laptop to check my email. I couldn't remember her Wi-Fi password. Her Gmail account opened up. I was about to sign out when a Hangouts notification popped up saying, "God, I love your body. 7, same park, night at my place. Wear the dress OP bought you so I can tear it apart." There were no other texts in the chat head. She probably deleted them. It was my student, my barely 18-year-old first-year student whom we'll call Wuss. I can't describe how I felt at that moment. It was a wild cocktail of emotions. I slammed her laptop and stormed out of her place, but I was foolish enough to not take any evidence, but they were supposed to meet up the next day and I could catch them red-handed. Next day, I go to the place where they were supposed to meet. I catch them making out in my car. I knock on the window, ask for my keys and tell her to never talk to me again. She was sobbing, apologizing and so on. I asked Wuss to drop her home, but he just bolted. He also forgot his phone in my car. Meanwhile, I'm being bombarded with texts of her apologizing. I then block her. I spent the next 2 days drinking myself into oblivion. I tried calling my best friend, but he was away for a business trip, so I didn't disturb him. All I did for 2 whole days was drink, puke, sleep, eat and repeat. 2 days later, when I came to my senses, I went through my bank statements and cancelled our joint account. Well, she withdrew most of the money, despite most of it being mine. I was still being bombarded with texts and calls, but sometime during my drunken stupor, I cracked my phone's screen, thus rendering it useless. So I got my backup phone and see a barrage of notifications. As it turns out, she posted on Facebook that I had been cheating on her. She said I was an emotionally manipulative, two-faced douchebag who sleeps with his students. We had a lot of mutual friends, most of whom blocked me. Someone even created a WhatsApp group that said some pretty horrible things about me. She even turned my sister against me. Our father left our mother for a woman half his age. Our mother got depressed and died after a few years. My sister is thus overly sensitive about infidelity. My ex was horribly manipulative, and she pushed all the right buttons to make my sister hate me. She knew about our father. She said things like, "Chip off the old block," and "He's just like your father," and many more horrible made-up things. She got very depressed because of this, with several of her friends being on my ex's side. This has probably put a permanent strain on our relationship. Word about my ex's Facebook post spread like wildfire through the college. They pinned a shy, socially awkward girl as my mistress and shamed her. To be honest, I never even noticed her. The revenge. My ex effectively ruined my reputation, put my job in jeopardy, and turned my sister against me. I later show her the apology text my ex sent me, and then she apologized to me because clearly I was the victim. Then I contacted a lawyer. The next day I went to work to request a few days off. That's when I saw Wuss and his father. They were looking for me. Somehow I resisted the urge to punch him. He apologized and told me he'd do anything to avoid getting thrown out of college. I asked him if he'd testify on my behalf. He agreed. I told him that I won't be able to save him because that was out of my hands. He told me he would still testify and sent me several screenshots of the chats with my ex. This confirmed she was cheating on me and not the other way around. I pressed charges under Indian Penal Code Section 499, 500 and 504, defamation and intentional insult with intent to provoke breach of the peace. The day of the hearing was frankly the best day of my life since the breakup. She said a lot of evil things about me and kept yelling to the point the judge scolded her. Her lawyer did ask for an out-of-court settlement, but I politely declined. It would have been a lot cheaper and I'd have gotten some money, but fuck her. This was quite a scandal. Luckily, I couldn't get fired because I have tenure, but I was transferred to another college. Same pay, same incentives, but it is a longer commute. As for her, she is knee-deep in shit. She was a library science major in the institution I worked for. She was fired as soon as I notified the authorities for philandering with a student. This has also screwed up her chances at procuring a job in the future. She's also facing jail time as the the aforementioned sections can include a 2-year prison sentence, a fine, or both, and Indian jails are no joke. She can post bail, however. Wuss has been expelled. The money she stole, that would be going to her lawyer. My best friend went to her apartment and got my stuff back, which include a futon, a refrigerator, an air conditioner, a laptop, and several expensive electronics and some jewelry. She can keep the TV though. It is in her name. She'll probably have to sell it because lawyers aren't cheap. At some point she will have to reach out to her parents, who still think she's a virgin. As I said, our country is very conservative, so that should be fun for her. Damn, what a bitch. What really annoys me in stories like this is how quickly the mob gangs up on the accused. All it takes is one convincing social media post to start a chain reaction that destroys lives. That certainly happened here. He'll never be able to look at his friends, colleagues, and family the same way again. And as for turning his sister against him, Jesus, tap dancing Christ, that's the saddest part. Whatever the ex gets is too good for her. And as for Wuss, he can go fuck himself. OP, I'm sorry you had to go through all that. If it's any consolation, it sounds like the law is on your side. It also sounds like you got her good. Best of luck to you. Anyway, we've come to the end of our journey. Thank you for traveling on the Reddit Railway, and we hope to see you again soon.